Hi guys, my name is Sissy and I am a mom of 3, and in this video I'm going to be sharing about what life has been like 2 years post-hysterectomy. So I had a hysterectomy 2 years ago at the same time as the birth of my last baby, and what happened is that I had placenta accreta spectrum and also placenta previa, which I have made a video about. But what happens in summary is that during my pregnancy, my placenta implanted at the bottom of the uterus, which is on top of the cervix, which is the way for the baby to go out, and the baby couldn't go out if you have a placenta previa. Secondly, my placenta was embedded beyond the uterine wall, and so the placenta couldn't also separate anyways. So because of that, I had to have a placenta, I had to have a hysterectomy, so they removed the uterus at the same time of giving birth, at the same time of removing the baby. So it was a C-section. They removed the baby and they removed the uterus. They said they waited a few minutes to see if it would separate on its own. It did not. I kept bleeding. I lost 2.6 liters of blood. They removed the uterus. And I want to just update you on how I am now, 2 years later, because I remember watching a lot of post-hysterectomy videos back before I had my operation and it was coming up. And I remember wanting to see what it was like long term, like what is a person really like. And yeah, so 2 years later, number one, I have no periods, obviously, because there is no uterus, which is where the periods come from. And do I miss periods? Not really, but a little bit. So I don't miss periods because I don't miss pain, cramping, bleeding, wearing pads. I used to, and then contraception. I used to have an IUD, and the IUD was causing me a lot of, had made my periods more painful because the uterus was cramping more to try and get rid of the IUD. So I had more severe cramps, I had more heavy bleeding, and yeah, I don't miss that, and I don't have that anymore. So a big pro of not having a uterus is that I don't have contraception problems. I have 3 kids and I know I'm done. Like, I'm confident when I say I have 3 kids and I'm never having kids again, biologically that is. Yeah, I think it gives me peace to know that I'm moving on to other things. I've had kids and now I'm moving on to other things. That's one pro of having had a hysterectomy, is the contraception is not a problem. And then periods as well. I don't have periods. So I said I miss them a little bit. So what I miss is in knowing at which point of the cycle I am. So because the hormones keep fluctuating as the month goes on, and the periods are a visible marker of saying, yeah, this is the start usually. That's how we start counting the days. Day 0 is the first day of your period. And for me, before I had the hysterectomy, I used to get like low mood, irritability, a few days to the period. And most of the time, while it was happening, while I was feeling a bit sad and down and not myself and a bit irritable, I wouldn't know what was the cause until 2 days later, period. I'm like, oh, then it would just be like, oh, it explains. There's no wonder this is what was happening. So I don't have that anymore, of that moment of the period coming and saying, now the period is here, and now definitely this is where you are at the stage in your cycle. That's gone. And initially I tried tracking, so I was even using a period tracker app because I haven't seen a menopause symptom tracker app. If you know of one, please let us know in the comments below. So I was tracking to see what happens every month, and I did notice initially there was some bit of pattern of my mood was dropping every month roughly. Like I would get sad, and then I would get like a pimple, because I usually get just like a pimple, and then I would track that, and then I noticed again. So it's roughly still following the same pattern, although now my skin has stopped like being consistent, and even my mood as well. Like I no longer have, I can't really tell at anyone, I can't tell at which point I am in the cycle, and I gave up. I haven't really been tracking that. The other thing to talk about is how I feel in my body. So in my body, I would say I've been doing a scar massage, which I highly recommend. Do scar massage to loosen your scar, because you don't want to have lots of thick fibrous tissue, which you probably have inside. The scar tissue inside can hold things together and it can be painful. So my scar 2 years later is obviously not painful, but on the inside, if I press very deeply, it's a bit uncomfortable. Not painful, but uncomfortable. And I keep trying to massage that to loosen the scar tissue. I struggled with a lot of constipation, and I still do on and off, but mine is more diet related, because if I eat the right things, then I don't have constipation. If I have the wrong things, then I have more constipation. But previously, before I had the hysterectomy, I could eat whatever I wanted, rubbish, and I would not have constipation. So I think that this operation probably is contributing, because it's all down in the same pelvic region where there's the large intestines as well, and I imagine scar tissue might be there. So that's why I'm doing the scar massage a lot, or abdominal massage, to try and loosen any adhesions, which are scars that might be maybe holding things together. That's one thing I've noticed. I still have a C-section pouch, which is where there's a scar, and then there's like a bit of a tummy that is over, which I don't mind too much about, because either way I'm not usually wearing clothes that are that revealing anyway, and you can't even tell unless I was to show you. So I think that's really not, it's not really something that's bothering me now. The other thing to talk about would be sex, and sex has been fine, really. So I mentioned in the previous video where I was giving an update that when they remove the uterus and the cervix is here, and this is the vagina, then they sew the back, and so you have a vaginal curve, so that way they don't just leave you just open like that. So it feels pretty much the same, or even better, because I don't have any worries of unplanned pregnancies. So sex is purely for pleasure, really, at this point, unlike before when it was for conception. And conception sex is not fun, as you can imagine, because it's like timed, especially if you're like me and who overplans everything. I would have trying to conceive now, first day start tracking my periods, and then I was doing ovulation tests. When am I ovulating? And then if that is the time of ovulating, we have to get it on, because you know you've calculated. And so, to be honest, that's not as fun. But now it's all entirely for fun, really. And yeah, that's a big pro of having a hysterectomy. And some people I've seen in their videos say that it might be sore because you've been stitched up at the back. And I don't know about that, because they did tell us to wait about, I don't know how long. I should have asked my husband to come and be here with me. But it was like the first thing he was asking after the operation is, when can we have sex again? Can you believe him? So he asked, and they said, I think they said 8 weeks. I think like it was it felt like a longer time than they usually tell you. And I think they usually tell you 6 weeks. So anyway, I think that's the reason too. So you don't undo the stitches, because remember the stitches like in the vagina or at the end of the vagina. The other thing is that some people who had hysterectomies for reasons of, like, let's say maybe they had endometriosis, fibroids, usually find that the sex is less painful after, because that's not there anymore to cause them pain. So it depends on your reason for having hysterectomy. That might be something to consider. So that's it, guys. What else can I tell you? Maybe my baby is now 2 years old. Micah is 2. So I now have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old. Yeah, Nkuziza. I have really raised, I've grown the children, as they say in Uganda. And yeah, I'm just excited to be on another phase of my life. Like, I've done the childbearing, and now I'm doing a child rearing. And yeah, the next few years, I'm now looking forward to, even after, when they're all grown up, then now menopause and life after menopause. Menopause is also on my mind, having been told that because I had a hysterectomy, I'm more likely to go into menopause earlier than I would have if I hadn't. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to watch more videos from me, then subscribe. And in this video here, I talk about what I am learning about menopause.